My name is Wendy Darr. I'm a retired school teacher now living in Buckfast in Devon. But during the war I lived on a farm in Kent, just outside of Faversham, which is 9 miles from Canterbury. I remember quite a lot because it's scary when you hear a siren going off and you're frightened and you think the Germans are sending bombs just for you, so no matter where you live, it's very frightening. I had 2 evacuees stay with us at the beginning of the war from the Medway towns. To my mother's horror, they came with lice and fleas, which had to be dealt with. They didn't like the country very much, they thought it was boring, but the one exciting thing they did do was take me to the woods and leave me there, so that when he came home from work my father had to go and find me. Luckily I was quite happy singing away in the woods, so it didn't matter. Later on we had 30 Land Army girls working on the farm, doing the work that obviously the men who'd gone to war would have done. We had 2 of them with us, and the other girls were in either a hostel or staying with other of the farm workers, so we got to know them very well. They were like aunties to me. I spent a lot of time outside with my father when I wasn't at school and got to know the work on the farm and everything that was done, and to watch everything going on overhead. I didn't realise it, but I was selected to be one of those few people who actually watched the Battle of Britain going on in the skies overhead. My mother and I were in an orchard with other women picking cherries, and suddenly there were a lot of planes overhead, and I was told they were Spitfires, which didn't mean a lot to me except they were little planes going very fast and whirling round and round, and occasionally one would get shot and would collapse into a field nearby. And sometimes the ladies would cheer when one of the planes with a cross on it went down. I soon worked this out, but when one of the planes with a circle on it went down, everyone went, "Ah." But I remember thinking quite clearly, it doesn't matter what they've got on the aeroplane, there's a man inside there and he's dying. And young as I was, I understood that quite clearly and can still see those pictures in my mind of the blue sky and these planes zooming around and shooting at each other, and sometimes one going down and sometimes them flying off safe. It was a very fascinating experience. Luckily I wasn't old enough to be aware of the real importance of this battle that was going on in the skies. But later on, of course, I realised how lucky I was to have actually observed this historical feature. Yes, my father considered that he had the hardest time, even than perhaps going to war, because with 30 Land Army girls, many of whom did not have any experience about working in the country or the farm, and he had to get them outside, doing the harvest, doing the picking of the crops, the Brussels sprouts in the winter, and we had many a time, "Frank, I don't want to go out there, it's cold, or it's raining, it will ruin my hairstyle." And so these poor girls had to suffer these sort of working conditions when they really weren't used to it, and my father's job was to make them get on with it. But he did, because he was a charming man and could do so. I also remember that he used to be a corporal in the Home Guard, which was run from the nearest village to us. And he used to come home and tell us all sorts of funny tales, but behind it was a very serious purpose. And although they didn't have weapons to start with, and he used to grumble and say, "Oh, when am I going to get my gun? When am I going to get the proper things? What can we do?" Being so near to Folkestone, Dover and the coast, we knew that, well, I didn't, but my parents knew that we were first in line should there be an invasion. And this was a frightening thing for them. Again, as a child, I was kept protected from a lot of the fears, but there were still many there. One morning I went into my mother's bedroom and said, "Oh, why is the sky all red over the hill, Mummy?" And she said, "Oh, that's Canterbury on fire." And the whole of the area where Canterbury was bright red from the flames because it had been attacked with bombs overnight. But like St Paul's, something protected Canterbury Cathedral and it was never damaged.